Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show. It's show number 26. We are on Country 107.7 WDLC, 106.9 WYNY, and Wall Radio on the following stations: 94.1, 94.9, 105.7, 106.1, all on the FM, 1340 AM, 101.5 HD2, and Pocono 96.7. Gavin, I've been calling these numbers now. This is show number 26. Is HD, is it like a clearer station? What's happening on the HD2 station that's not happening on the other ones?
Yes, you could argue that the audio is clearer on it.
So the show sounds better.
It does, yes.
So how do I get HD radio?
You have to get a special HD radio. You could probably buy it at Best Buy or, well, I'd say Circuit City, but Circuit City's been gone for a while. Or maybe Walmart might have one. Or you could search online. Of course, you can get anything online these days.
Well, if you could make us sound better on the radio, that's a good thing. I've always been wondering what the heck that is, Gavin. All right. Before we get to our guest and our show today, I did have a little announcement. I did have a community member reach out to me. This Sunday, December 3rd, there is going to be a rally in Port Jervis at the train station. And the focus and the goal of that rally is to bring attention to that the station is not handicap accessible. In the world we live in and all the upgrades in different areas, we need that station upgraded, and we want Port Jervis to rally behind that. So there is a rally. All community members are invited. It's 12:30 Sunday in Port Jervis at the train station, the Metro North station in Port Jervis. So if you are interested in joining that, please get involved. That's happening this Sunday, December 3rd. That being said, normally we start with an opening concept and an opening thought. But today's guest, he mixed it up. We decided to do a little something different. So I would like to welcome in today's guest, principal of HBE Elementary School, my good friend and Port Jervis lifelong resident, Jared Kahmar.
Hey, Andrew, it's great to be here at the radio station joining you and Gavin, and thanks for having me on today.
I'm excited, Mr. Kahmar, and you wanted to mix up the opening segment a little bit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've been working on a concept. I'm a wrestling coach in a former life and currently with the youth program. And hand fighting is sort of a staple of the sport of wrestling, right? So as a former athlete, how do you translate the things that you've learned from your athletic past into your everyday life? So kind of a program I've been developing for a long time here with my athletes at the high school level and at the college level. It's called Hand Fight Life. So we kind of have an interactive, and audience members at home can participate as we kind of go throughout. But I gave the boss a little homework here today.
Well, it's exciting, and you mixed it up for sure, and I'm excited about it. So, let's get started.
All right, so I'll just preface with what hand fighting kind of is and what it looks like. Imagine a boxer sparring, right? Mm-hmm. When you put that in slow motion, the thousands of moves that you see through that kind of flurry, that's kind of like what hand fighting is for wrestling. You just see that real pretty takedown that led to the 2-point score, right? But hand fighting is the preparation for the match, the mental state that you're in. The level changes, the positioning. You want to attack your opponent, so you have to break their defenses. So you do that through creating angles and through the movements and motions from your hand, from the hand fighting, right? So it's all those little nuances, and as we go through life, things can get complicated for us, and we all want to be at our best and give our best. And certainly as my family grows and my responsibilities grow.
They're growing.
They're growing.
We got number 4 on the way.
Number 4, my kids are all home listening, Jack, Adele, and Bo, and we got a baby coming. My wife Lori's due in January, so we're pretty excited about that. Number 4.
Awesome, Mr. Kahmar. Congratulations.
Man. Thank you. So how do you then apply being intentional about the roles that you live in and the responsibilities that you have, and being able to put your best foot forward daily in all the things that you do. So the concept is really hand fight life, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later at the junior college at SUNY Sullivan. I had a great opportunity to start a program wrestling there, and I found that I was doing more coaching on life than I was in wrestling. With the kids that I had there, the men that I had there, and it was just valuable work and a lot of fun. And they got a lot of value out of these conversations. So kind of jumping in some of the staples. When you think about athletics or weightlifting or things that you do, think about the time that you spend warming up. Maybe you go to the gym, you're on the treadmill for 20 minutes, and then you got to stretch and light exercise and then get into the heavy stuff, right? But then you think about our day, and we all have great roles as parents, and leaders, and certainly you and I in our roles as principals, and we have to go to work and be in our best place. But what do we do to prepare for that and warm ourselves up? So working with a mentor of mine, and we can talk about him a little later. His name's Jim Harshaw. Help introduce me to our friend Dr. Gilbert. Mm-hmm. I know he's on our agenda here. But looking at the process, there's 5 things for me. What are your core values? What are your AM and PM routines to set you up for the day, to close out your day and get you ready for tomorrow? What is the content that you're exposing yourself to? And what does a perfect day for you look like? So I gave you a little homework there. Let's start, Andrew, and at home you can kind of go along with this and make it a little interactive, and the program can be applied to any different area that you're looking at. But we'll take you through it, Andrew. What's a core value for Andrew Marotta?
So, Jared, this is great. You're flipping it around and you're asking the questions. I love it. But this is a cool thing, and I'm excited to be part of it. So, core values, again, the name of the show is Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And to be a great leader, I think it's extremely important to have some core values. So some of the things I jotted down, trust, family. It's not really a core value, but keeping your family in your forefront, in my opinion, is your integrity, your honesty, and a sense of constant improvement is something that is burning inside of me. I want to be a great principal. I want to be a great dad, a husband, radio host. And so those are some of the things that I jotted down.
Well, Andrew, I can attest to that. I worked with you for a long time at the high school, and we developed that relationships as colleagues and friends, and our families have gotten to know each other over the years. And for the listener, I can attest that you live and embody those 5 things, and I see you live that in your life daily. So having, part of the program, you need to know through your trajectory of your day, what are your core values and why are you doing what you're doing? And just like you said, for family, being at the forefront, sometimes we go out and things are hard and our day is tough. Knowing your why and that your family is at your forefront, that's why we're going out to do what we do, isn't it? So AM and PM routine, Andrew, what do you do to sort of in the morning set yourself up for the perfect day?
And Jared, that's another great question. One of the things, talking about content, I've been listening to Tim Ferriss, who's a big lifestyle design and the 4-hour work week, and he's written a number of books, and he's a pretty sharp guy. So he interviews a lot of people to talk about their routines, a lot of experts in their fields. As you know me pretty well. I am a routine guy, a schedule guy, and certainly a morning guy. So, I think it starts at night, getting to bed early. One of the changes I made this year with all that I'm doing with the book and the radio is putting the phone away. I charge my phone downstairs now. I got an old-fashioned alarm clock as well as an electric one, but I read. I have books next to my bed. I have a notepad next to my bed, but I want to get away from that screen and get away from the scheduling and just all that's on that phone. But my morning, I like to wake up early. I like to give myself an extra half hour or so time in the morning. I am a stretcher. I like to stretch in the morning, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, that stuff all right in my room quietly so I don't wake up Mrs. Murata. I like to get my breakfast ready. I'm a coffee guy, get the coffee ready. I spend some time with Baxter, my dog, and then I'm hustling off to work. I have been trying to find time or make time in the morning to exercise, go down on our elliptical. But 4:30, 4:45 in the morning is my basement's cold, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So, and then it's off to work. In the car, you're talking about time. I have been listening to some different podcasts. I've kind of gone away from the sports talk radio. I grew up listening to Mike and the Mad Dog, and a sports talk radio guy kind of, I'm putting on different podcasts and different audio books in the car. I have about a 20, 25-minute commute to work. And then, boom, we're at school. We're there. Quarter to 7 or so, we're there.
That's all great stuff, Andrew, and that's really a staple of the program. And I've found kind of through my own personal growth, that was really an area that I needed to focus on. I have these roles. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a principal, I'm a coach, so I always kind of felt like those roles were sort of competing against each other.
Competing for your time.
Yeah, and how could I be at my best to deliver, what every one of those people in my life deserve my best when I'm wearing that hat. So how could I be intentional about my time and doing the right thing so that kind of an investment strategy, pay yourself first. And in that AM routine, you're doing that. You're paying yourself first. You're doing the right things. You're filling your mind with the right content, and you're getting yourself prepared so that, you can go give those high school kids and staff your best and be in a way when you get home to be at your best for them as well. So I call those life hacks. So I subscribe to that theology of needing to look at the content. I was a radio guy, WDLC, and
there you go.
Teased Gavin, I've driven by this building 1,000 times in my life and finally got the shot to come in here today. But instead, it's now podcasts and audiobooks and what are you filling your mind with? So, Andrew, how about you kind of tied in the third piece there, content, and I just want to make a comment about that. Dale Carnegie and one of my favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he said that you were the average of the 5 people you spent the most time with, right? So I've come to learn and have heard this in other places that especially in today's, technology-driven world, you're the average of the things that you most expose yourself to. So one of my life hacks was doing an autopsy of my day and my week. So I got to look at, I wasn't really achieving in some of the areas that I really wanted to. So let's look at my day and where are some of the things that I can cut out to be intentional about my time and getting better. So I found some areas that I could do that, and life hack, that was certainly one of them. The content that I'm exposing myself to, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. If I'm looking and I'm seeing windows of Facebook when I get home, I know I'm maybe not doing the right thing because that's the time I should be, focused on my family. So I found these little pockets that I could really start to make a difference in my day. And then the last one there, Andrew, is the perfect day. Have you ever given thought, and this is to the listener at home, have you ever given thought if time and money aside, you could outline what your perfect day looked like to actually sit and write that out, and what'd you come up with? So I put that as part of your homework, Andrew. Principal Murata, what does your perfect day consist of?
Well, my perfect day is going to have to wait just a couple of minutes because we are up against a commercial break. That's a great question, Mr. Kahmar. We will be right back with Jared Kahmar, our guest today on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. This is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and we're going to jump right back into it with my friend and principal of HBE, Port Jervis lifelong resident Jared Kahmar. he flipped it around on me today. Me and Gavin, he threw us a curveball, but he's asking some questions about hand fight life and some of the great things he's got going on in his life. So, Jared, before the break, you had talked about the perfect day. Being here in the studio with you. That's perfect. Hey, I mean, we all try to have that each and every day, but you could think about it when you're on vacation or you're home in the summer. It's that Saturday. It's a beautiful day, certainly where you live with that view of the river. I just jotted down, Jared. I spoke about. I've always gotten up early, even in college. I was always an early guy. So I would certainly like to be up early. I like to hear the birds in the morning. I like to be outside with the fresh air. I like to exercise. And when the weather's nice, I really like to exercise outside. You and Mr. Lazaro got me into bike riding. I like to ride my bike. So some sort of exercise in the morning. I like to eat something healthy, something that's going to make you feel good afterwards. The days of eating pancakes and bacon with all that stuff on it all over, like that would make me sick now. So eating something healthy, certainly spending quality time with my family. I've been enjoying writing, Jared, and the radio broadcast. I talked about that a couple episodes ago about that there's no outside variables here in the radio studio. And when I'm writing, whether it's the blog or whether it's a book, only my ideas are influencing me. Not there's a fight in the hallway or a kid threw an apple. None of that. So I'd like to spend some time doing some work, whether it's work in the yard, work on a book, work doing something, a couple hours there. Again, have a nice meal with my family. And then lastly, spend some quality time with my wife. You mentioned your family. I'm married 17 years. I love my wife and just, engaging in whether it's a walk, whether it's a dinner, whether it's a date. One of the podcast that I listen to is called The Good Dad Project, and he talks about doing something that's going to get your adrenaline going with your spouse. Do a 5K, do a great event. So something like that, I think would wrap it all up, man.
Yeah, great stuff, Andrew. So the work I've been doing, when I'm gonna go back to core values real quick. And when I think about and I look at my core values, and I talked about some of the roles that I live within, right? All the things, all the values that I have, the roles that I play in my life, break down into about 4 categories. And the categories are relationships, health, wealth, and self. So the program Hand Fight Life is really to then look at your core values and how do they fit those relationships and those goals that you have. So I had a look. I'll give you an example. I talked about Sullivan Wrestling. I was at sort of this crossroads where, I'd been the AP at the high school with you now. I was probably my 3rd, heading into my 4th year, I guess. And things were going great up at Sullivan with the coaching, and that was sort of a regret in my young career that I had that I didn't pursue collegiate coaching, right? So the work that I was doing, I was starting to get a little play from some different NCAA schools about wrestling and my athletic director background, and I was considering the career change of NCAA athletics and coaching and working within an athletic department there. And had some kind of decisions to make on that trajectory and kind of where to go. And what I found was, as I looked at the decisions that I had to make, there was a little bit of ego there, and there was a little bit of selfishness on my part, because, it would have been giving up a lot of things for my family and the things that we're creating and building here to go do that. So what might have been a decision I was leaning towards really wasn't best for my family and the things I really wanted to do with this short time that we have here, right? So getting the things that I was working on aligned with my goals was step one. And that really made it clear to me then what that next step should be and look like. And I can remember where I was sitting doing that activity, deciding that pursuing a principalship would be my next kind of step, right? So the program, Hand Fighting Life, tying it back to athletics, the preparation, the hand fighting, the attacks, the level changes, the things that you're doing to create an angle and an advantage, right? First things first, you have to have your core values lined up. And then that autopsy, looking at my day, looking at my week and the things I was spending my time on, how did that align with the values that I have? So when you look at your perfect day that you just described and you look at those core values, they're in perfect alignment. They match right up. Then when you look at the AM and PM action items that you do, they're setting you up to get after that perfect day. And sometimes, though, we have that plan and life just happens and curveballs get thrown at us, but you're putting yourself in the best preparation mode possible to receive those things, to stay on course, right?
And it's great to put it on paper in front of you like we have it here in the studio.
Yeah, so I hope the listener at home is just kind of piquing your interest in getting you to think about that. What is your mission? What's your why? What are you intentional about? What are your values? What are the things that you're spending your time on? Take a look at your day, and do you find 3-4 hours of TV and Facebook, yet your family or that promotion or that trip you're working towards is your core value, but you're not spending the right time being intentional about chasing it.
You got to put the time in. And Jared, if one of our listeners is interested in this, or hopefully more than one, is there stuff online? Where can they find more stuff about Hand Fight Life? Yeah,
so they can email me directly at my first initial and last name, so jkmar@gmail.com, or reach me on my cell phone, 845-258-0862.
He's going cell phone on the program. Only Dr. Dina has been so brave.
I hope you don't expect that of me to give out my personal phone numbers on the station.
We're just going to swing by WDLC here, Gavin.
Jared, you want to give that one more time?
Sure. It's 845-258-0862.
Hand Fight Life. I love it, Jared. And let me jump right into one of the questions I wanted to start with, talking about content and improving yourself. You really got yourself rolling, but you really got me going with Dr. Gilbert as well, making contact with him. Why don't you briefly share that story with Dr. Gilbert? And I'm going to give that hotline number again for those that have listened in, or if it's your first time, 973-743-4690. That is the Success Line. Success Hotline by Dr. Rob Gilbert, Mr. Kahmar and ours friend, and really mentor, and really someone who's opened a lot of doors and just doors in our mind and doors in our lives. So how did you get in touch with Dr. Gilbert, Jared, and how did you get going with that?
Dr. Gilbert, I hope he's listening, and shout out to Doc, and he's just brought great value to my life. A lot of moving parts there. So Paul Hartman, a PJ alum and mentor of mine, and guy I grew up with. His brother Eric's our head varsity wrestling coach. Paul, we all stay connected, us wrestling guys. We head out to the NCAA tournament every year, and just always staying connected. So he shared with me one time a podcast by Jim Harshaw. And it had started, it's become a podcast of overcoming failure, but it started off kind of just for wrestling. And Dr. Gilbert has a wrestling background. Doc's a professor at Montclair State, and he was the guest. And, he just, one story after another, Andrew, that I was just blown away. I remember where I was driving. And you've talked about fire, water, and trust. And I remember that one just caught me, right? Then he tells another story about a boy, whose neighbor was retiring from the local supermarket, and his brother was a really wealthy guy. And, he came over for Christmas, and the boy's helping the guy wash his new car, right? So, where'd you get this car? My brother gave it to me. He's, what? He said, yeah, he came over to pick me up in this souped up car, and he's really successful, and we were driving around, and he went to take me home, and we ended up at his house, and he was getting out. I said, what are you doing? He said, no, bro, this is your car. Happy retirement, right? So the kid's like looking in amazement, like, what? He gave you this car? And yeah, he gave me this car. So the boy says, boy, I wish I had. And as the listener, you're filling in the blank. Boy, I wish I had. And if you're like me, you said, I wish I had a brother like that, right? But the boy says, he doesn't say, I wish I had. He says, boy, I wish I could be a brother like that to my little brother, right? So I heard that, and I was just like, wow, I got to get in touch with this guy, right? Yeah. So, and one story after another was just better than the next. And they were all applicable to me in a way. So at the end, he leaves his number on the radio, on the podcast, and he says, if you're a wrestling coach and you need a story, here's my number, call me. So I had just gotten hired as the new principal at HPE, and the next day I was going up to join their staff for... they were having a staff meeting, and I was just introducing myself, right? So I called him, Doc, you don't know me, but I need a story. And literally within a half hour, he called me back, and we talked, and he gave me this great story that I was able to sort of build my introduction around, and it was just a home run. And say, oh, new principal, where's that at? I said, oh, Port Jervis, New York. Port Jervis? Do you know Mark Fowler? So for our listeners out there, I know a lot of people know the Fowler family, and Mark was a legendary wrestling coach here. Mark graduated high school, Andrew, in 3 years at Port Jervis, and then graduated Harvard in 3 years, and then came back and created that 70s dynasty of wrestling here with the Bannock's, and just really did some great things. So Doc had a neat story about how he had met Mark Fowler back in his old college wrestling days.
Hitchhiking, right?
Hitchhiking, and someone from Mark's family picked him up, was going to watch Mark wrestle, and Doc was coming actually home from a wrestling match. So he said, you're from Port Jervis, you ever need anything, you call on me. And so then he goes, so what are you doing tomorrow night? And he had tickets to see the legendary Dan Gable, Ed and Lou Bannock's Iowa wrestling coach, speak at, it's called Wrestlers in Business, an event that was happening through the Princeton Wrestling Program. And he had an extra ticket and asked if I wanted to go. So, yeah, I'm going. So I got some FaceTime with Dr. Gilbert, and I was his guest down there, and got to go meet Coach Gable again and listen to him speak. And I just remember coming back to the school on fire. And, you think about all the great things that have happened in each of our lives kind of since then, right? Has really just sort of turned the way we look at some things in a different way.
That's an amazing story, but you were, again, bettering yourself by listening to that podcast, and that was a great story, and he is a good friend to us. So, Jared, you became a principal then shortly after that. You're up at HPE. What's the biggest difference that you notice, Mr. Kahmar, in being you were an assistant principal and then the principal, and I felt like the proud papa, like boom, you up and left home, and there you go, and you've been running that building now for a few years. How is it?
Andrew, it's incredible. I love HPE. My third graders, I hope, might be tuning in. I have a folder that I walk around with, put your goals out there to the world to see, and we want to create the best school in New York State. And I have that written on a folder, and I get to walk around every day with it. And when they see me and I don't have it, they hold me accountable. Coach or Mr. Kahmar, where's your folder? And I keep a lot of things in there that remind me of the work that we're doing to keep laser focused on that vision as we go throughout the day, being intentional, right? But in terms of differences, I think a lot of high school teaching, we're looking at the content, right? And where with the elementary school, we're developing the learner. Rather than teaching the course and the information, we're teaching them how to become learners, to receive that later in their education.
Those little kids. Yeah.
Everybody should get to visit kindergarten once a day. We're like rock stars in there. They're so great.
Jared, we have so much to talk about. We do have to take another quick break. We'll be right back with Jared Kahmar here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. We are rocking here on show number 26 with my good friend, Jared Kahmar. He is a bundle of energy. He's doing a great job on the program. Jared, let's talk a little bit about yourself. You talked so much to open the show about the hand fight life and improving yourself. Your leadership style, Mr. Kahmar, what do you think are the most important qualities of a leader?
So, first and foremost, I think we need to be great communicators. And I know you have some things from Dr. Gilbert here that we might work in, and he talks about to be a great communicator, listen. Right, and it's sort of counterintuitive. Looking at leadership in my day, I always felt like if there were more minutes, I needed to do more work. And as I grow, I realize that pause and getting yourself in alignment is going to better prepare you to be more productive later, right? So to communicate, be a good listener. I'm a coach at heart, and I try to take that approach into everything I do. And I hope that imprint is visible to my staff and in my leadership. But to be also a great coach, you need to be coachable. You need to have a vision. And I think there's kind of three. You look at all the leadership stuff that's out there, and I sort of in my brain categorize it into three ways. And you can lead from out in front. You could lead from behind, or you could lead while next to people. And I think the caveat is then deciding which one to play at the right time. And the work that we're doing right now, and we can talk about it in a bit with Teachers College and our new writing curriculum. Our building is on fire right now. Our staff is just getting after it, and it's about research and inquiry and getting better in everything we do. And that work I'm able to do with them and walk beside them. So there's not that top-down thing happening. And I hope that my staff would agree, but there's also the times that you have to make a call and lead from the front and get out there and model and do and participate and be the example. And then there's other times you want to be in the background. Sometimes you're pulling strings or steering a little bit, but it's knowing which one of those to play at the right time.
And Jared, you talked about when you first got there, Dr. Gilbert, helped you with a great story. But how did you establish yourself? How did you gain the trust of the staff, and how did you, establish yourself with them, with the staff?
Yeah, so I think, Andrew, the key for me with any position I've ever been in, it's about the relationships. Being intentional about spending that time with your staff, growing their leadership capacity, working with them, again, being out in front and being visible. I learned from our friend across the river, Dr. John Bell, back when I was the athletic director and he'd hired me for that position. Coming into that interview with you and Mr. Bon Jovi was the principal at the time, having a vision for what the program would look like. And some of that work that we were able to do kind of has led to other things for me, right? So coming into the school with a vision, but being able to adjust that as we go and incorporate their values into that also. Sharing that vision and having a plan, management versus leadership. Are you steering the boat or are you charting the course? And I hope that I'm able to do both. There's a clear vision. We are charting the course, but we're not just steering the boat around the obstacles and circles. We know where we're heading to.
I like that reference there. That's good. I'm going to take it and use it as your own. I like it. Mr. Kahmar, talking about a vision, you had a clean slate. You dove in that pool with Sullivan County Community College. They never had a wrestling program, and you started that program from scratch. Tell us about that experience, and what were some of the the great things about it, and some of the hurdles that you had to cross in making that from scratch.
Yeah, Andrew, I can talk wrestling all day, right?
Loves wrestling.
What an awesome opportunity for me, and when their athletic director Chris DeBue had reached out about starting the program, they were kind of being pushed by a national organization, Beat the Streets, who had their summer camps there, and they kind of provided the funding and the resources to do it. And it was the last week of July, and move-in day was 2 weeks from then. So I had 15 days to build a program, before the start of the semester. And so again, by having a vision and a plan, and we were able to get to quick work and built something that I was really proud of. Some of the neat things that we got to do, there's about 45 Division 1, 2, and 3 wrestling schools in the Northeast here, and we got in front of about 37 of them. Knowing that those were the places my kids were trying to get to, one of the events we got into, were the only junior college ever to wrestle at Madison Square Garden, a marquee event for the NCAA, the Grapple at the Garden. We were kind of like an undercard match on there, but we were there, and I remember Cornell was wrestling next to me on one mat, and West Point and Duke were wrestling across from me on the other. So just an awesome opportunity to be there. I had my son down Matt's side with me. Jack was probably 3 or 4 at the time. They did all the traveling with me. So it was just really fun, a great time. Got to go through it throughout the country, and really just grow who I was as a coach. And kind of the neat thing about that now is being able to use those skills and things I learned here in our community, working with our youth program. So just a really fun time for me. Yeah,
that was a great experience, and I remember those pictures, and it was a great thing, even though it was through Sullivan County. It was a great thing for Port Jervis, and we still have kids going there today. We have a graduate, Jose Cintron, wrestling there. One of our teachers went up and saw him, but he's at that program probably because of you, and that's a great thing. Jared, you mentioned about the community here in Port Jervis, a place we both have been here and grown to love. I see a resurgence in the town, Mr. Kahmar, the buildings that they're doing, the events they're having. What are your feelings about some of the things that are happening in town? You grew up here. You've seen a lot of things change. What are some of your thoughts about what's going on in town now, and some of the good things that are happening?
Yeah, Andrew, great points there, and I wouldn't trade my upbringing here in Port Jervis for anything. Love our community, and just such great memories of that time, and the gratitude for my family and mom and dad, and things that they were able to do for us here. And I just think of all the great mentors that I've had in my life, through my schooling here and living in the community, and through athletics. I'm thinking of guys like Kevin Birmingham and Dave Simmons and John Bell and Gary Spears and Frank Bell, Gary Lapriori. Their imprint of the things that they did for us as kids, exists in my life, and the things that I'm able to do every day. So just a really, really neat time to grow up here. And seeing the things that are happening, and the investment of the folks from our community and within our schools, I just, have the feeling and the hope that we're poised for that explosion. Just some great things happening, and a lot of people working really hard. And we see that through our schools, Andrew, don't we? Our staff is second to none in the work ethic that they bring, and the work that they're putting in.
And our families in the community support the school. I remember one of the first things working with you as assistant principal. Certainly, I knew what I had in front of me in the man that I was working with, seeing the way you worked, but I never really knew all the connections. I mean, you knew everyone who walked through the door, and especially if they were mad at me. It was like, don't worry, Andrew, that's my second cousin. Don't worry about it. And it just,
true story.
It's a true, many times over. But your connections to the community, the roots run deep here in Port Jervis, and so many people that support the school. But I was amazed at your connections to do that. And now you're in this leadership role. You're going to do so many great things. Jared, before we get on to Teachers College and some of the things you're doing with your teachers, you've talked so fondly of them. One more question before we go to a break. Your role as principal, you have to do a lot of things. One of them is to really identify great teaching. In your opinion, Mr. Kahmar, you taught social studies, you were a coach. What are you looking for in great teaching? What are some of the things that stand out to you that you want to see in a classroom?
Yeah, so Andrew, we can all, think about that impactful teacher, and the characteristics.
You mentioned a bunch of them, right?
Yeah,
there.
For sure. Mr. Birmingham, I was fortunate enough as a young teacher to have first period off every day with him, and I always reflected the book Tuesdays with Maury. I had mornings with Kevin, and Mr. B taught me so many things about teaching and life in general. But we all know what those characteristics look like. A quote that jumps out to me to sort of summarize it, and it's the old teach someone to fish quote. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him to fish, you can feed him for a lifetime, right? But the next layer to that is if you teach him how to teach others to fish, you could feed the world. And that to me is great teaching, and we're seeing that in our classrooms where our teachers are delivering instruction with the sophistication where they're teaching our kids how to teach each other. And we know through the research and the pedagogy that that's where real learning takes place, when you're able to teach somebody else to do something. And the best classrooms we're in and stuff we're working on with Teachers College, there's 3 teachers in the room, and that's the teacher, the students, and the walls. So what elements are on the walls that are helping the kids learn, how are the kids helping each other learn, and how's the teacher facilitating that? And that's when that's happening and it's going great, that's where the magic happens.
Awesome. Mr. Kahmar, before we go to break, one of the sections our listeners like best is the rapid fire. I'm going to hold off on the professional development because I know we're going to touch on that in the last segment. But rapid fire questions, we did this in our interviews, and now we've taken it here to education, leadership, and beyond. So, last book you read?
So I know you want rapid fire, Andrew. I read like 5, 6, 7 books at a time, and I don't get through one. I do them all. So currently in the last few weeks here, the 21 Laws of Leadership, The Alchemist, The Obstacle is the Way, and reading a book about Marcus Aurelius.
The Principle, Surviving and Thriving?
I did read The Principle of Surviving and Thriving. Absolutely great stories, Andrew. And I'm hoping to close with some gratitude here, and I'm grateful that you've had me on here, and I'm proud of the work you're doing here and the book and all these great things. So
you were part of that in there, man. A lot of the things in there. All right, last movie you saw?
Oh, man, The Smurfs with my man Bo, my 2-year-old. Sorry, I don't get to see much TV or be into the movies.
Number one thing you look for in hiring people?
Value added.
Best activity you've seen in the classroom?
When teachers are able to get to that point where the kids are doing the teaching.
Biggest pet peeve of yours in the professional setting?
My biggest pet peeve is sort of with myself. You think of all the things that we do and that we're trying to be intentional about. Sometimes it's easy to excuse away getting something done you want to get done or know that should be done. Like, I don't have the time for it, or now's not the right time, or I don't have the resource, or whatever it is. Quit the excuses and make it happen.
Short-term goal of yours?
Mine it's called a SIDCHA. And that's a self-imposed daily challenge. It's like Dr. Gilbert's 38-day between Thanksgiving and New Year's. That is from another podcast I listen to, and it's a physical activity every day. So 20 minutes of physical activity every day from now to New Year's. You
are killing it, Mr. Kahmar. We will be right back, everyone, with my man, Jared Kahmar, here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Surviving and Thriving. Welcome back, everyone, to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. We are on WDLC, WYNY, Wall Radio, and Pocono 96.7. My name is Andrew Murata. I am the host here, and we've had a fabulous show with my friend Jared Kahmar. As usual, he killed it. He is at his best when the bright lights are on. Jared, I really appreciate you being on. To open the show, we flipped it around a little bit, and we talked about something that Jared's been working on, Hand Fight Life. And you can email Jared or give him a ring. He even gave out his cell phone number, jkahmar, Kahmar, @gmail.com. But what a great concept. But, Jared, I know you wanted to talk about your staff here. Normally, this is a write-in portion. We're going to skip that this week because you've been so passionate about your school and your kids. But you're doing some great things in the classrooms with some of the professional development with your staff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm a big proponent of professional development and personal development, and just thinking about kind of brainstorming some of the things that we've been able to do just in the last couple of months, and I'll just talk through some of them. But I really want to share with the listener, K8 is an initiative we've been subscribing to this year, and we're going to continue to grow it. That's kindergarten through 8th grade. Is a core writing curriculum. So you follow the state, guidelines for curriculum, but you sort of have the autonomy as the teacher to figure out how you're going to deliver that. And we started to see some gaps in the instruction depending on how that was being delivered. So a writing program would be able to help us improve our ELA scores, and writing being the foundation of everything we do in education. I felt like coming in with our vision that would be kind of where I was laying my cards down on improving literacy within our school. So that brought us to Teachers College. Lucy Calkins is the director of the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, an internationally renowned as one of the best in the world for their work in writing. And we rolled that out last winter. And we were able to host an institute in June. 75 of our educators, K through 8, on their first week of summer vacation, came in and spent a week with the presenters from Columbia University, came out to HBE right here in the Port Jervis district, and got us up and running on the program. And we are already seeing just great results from the kids' work, the evidence of what we're teaching in their product. And we're really excited. We just achieved project school status with Teachers College, where basically they're committing to helping you grow your school. So they came out yesterday talking about PD. We had our first training session where the experts, so they've written the programs. Lucy Calkins helped write the Common Core. Judy Chin is our lady there that kind of helped set all this up. She's one of the regents from the New York State Regents. So they're cutting edge on all the next generation standards that are coming out, and they're embedding it into the program. So their providers were here yesterday working with our teachers. So they spent 45 minutes with each grade level talking about the lesson. Then they get in there and they model it for them, and then they break it down afterwards. So just a really, really powerful teaching us how to deliver that instruction. So we're really excited about how that's going to move us as a district.
Yeah, it sounds very powerful to develop that skill such early on, teaching our teachers to be experts. That's great. Yeah,
it really, the work, talking about statistics, and kids writing, and then kids' language, their academic language. So we're doing all these things with our learning community that we're creating, looking at best practices, getting our teachers in front of each other, because you've had on our friend Dr. Dina, and we get to do these learning walks with her, and just see these great practices happening room to room. And I'm like on fire trying to share that with our teachers. I saw, this one doing that. Michelle Thiel was in there, and her kids in first grade are teaching each other their goals and reviewing, and just incredible stuff. And I could go through room by room. I'm learning it. I want them to see it from each other.
Yeah.
The diamonds are there, right?
That's right.
So get them in front of each other and seeing it. And that's kind of been some of the work that we're doing.
Jared, we are definitely going to have you back on. You were killing it today. 48 minutes is not enough for Jared Kahmar. So I did want to thank you for coming on, Mr. Kahmar. Unfortunately, we are out of time. But when baby number 4 arrives, maybe Mrs. Kahmar will let you out for a little bit. We'll have you back on in the spring.
Sounds good. I'd love to be back, Andrew, and thank you again for having me on here today.
It's been great. We're gonna today's quote's gonna be dedicated to you, and we learned this story from Dr. Gilbert. Turn your biggest weakness into your biggest strength. And that's a story we learned from Dr. Gilbert. There was a story of a young wrestler, started out wrestling, and the guy would only teach him one move. His teacher would only teach him one move. And the boy kept doing it, became an expert at that one move.
The lateral drop.
There you go. And he goes to a tournament, and he kills it. And the boy and his family asked the master afterwards, hey, how did only the one move? He said, well, and what's the wrestling technique about? What's the punchline was? Well, the only way to break that move is for him to grab your other arm, and the kid didn't have another arm.
Yeah, so he thought they were taking it easy on him, and they were actually trying to rip his head off because they didn't want to lose to the kid with one arm, but they had no way of stopping what he had become expert at through his weakness.
And he thought with his one arm was a weakness, he turned into his biggest strength. So that quote is dedicated, again, Jared Kahmar and Dr. Gilbert, one of his many stories he shared with us. We're out of time. Next week's guest is Coach Dan Spanauer, and also the author and creator of the Coaching and Leadership Journal out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Heads basketball coach at West Stokes High School, Dan Spanauer. Next week on Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. Signing off, show number 26 with my guest, Jared Kahmar. Go out and change the world for the better. Have a great weekend, everyone.